Hi guys, it's Ray here from City Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very well today. I'm here to bring you another football finances video. Now, it's been all over Twitter again and social media. Criticism of txiki and City's board for selling players on the cheap. Now, despite all the videos that Colin Savage, our finance expert, has made, it seems that City fans just want to keep getting onto social media and, quite frankly, embarrassing themselves with their lack of knowledge. It's one thing to be disappointed or frustrated, or sometimes a little bit angry even, about some of the prices that we're selling players for, but you know, with all the work that Colin's done, it just seems that people are not taking any notice of what he's saying. And it's interesting to see what somebody else on Twitter said this morning. It was Pete, who is at Man City Oracle, and he said people should engage your brain first before speaking, or do a little research into what it takes to run a successful football club. I think he's right. You know, there's every opportunity for fans, not just Man City fans, fans of any team, to watch a few videos out there. It's not just Colin Savage, it's people like Kieran Maguire, and there's other people who've done, whether it's videos, whether it's articles. There's plenty of information out there for people to educate themselves and to come across as a little bit knowledgeable and having done a little bit of research before they make their statements. Now, what I'm going to try and explain to you quite as briefly as I can, if it's possible, there's lots of things putting pressure on clubs. We've seen it with Liverpool, who don't want to spend much money this summer. Their fans are up in arms, having a pop at their board, their manager, their owners. Come on guys, you've just won. You've been to a Champions League final one season, you won the Champions League the following season, you won the Premier League at a canter last season, and you're not happy? You're not happy with your manager, your board, your owners? Come on guys. Yeah, and it's the same with some City fans that, you know, generally we say it's the new breed, the recent arrivals, the youngsters, but there's also people, older people as well, who don't do the research and are just happy to spite off on social media. Now, I'd ask all those people if they were aware that Manchester City might be losing or not earning about £100 million in the space of 12 months, that they were expected to earn £100 million. I'll break some of that down, and there'll be bits and pieces I miss out. Some of my numbers might not be spot on, but you'll get the idea. Now, there was a rebate given to the, I believe, to the satellite companies, you know, the broadcast hosts. So people like, I think, BT and Sky, whatever, by the Premier League. Now, I think that hurt Liverpool the most because basically they were shown the most, I think. So I think they lost about 17.3 million quid. I'm not sure exactly how much City lost, but let's say it's about 15 million quid. We were, you know, second in the table. We were one of the most watched clubs. You know, our matches were most shown on satellite TV. So let's say City's is about 15 million quid, might be a little bit more, a little bit less, but not by much. Then there was the news that the Chinese TV contract has been ripped up. Now that was worth $700 million a year, let's call it 500 million quid, there or thereabouts. Obviously with you know, fluctuations in currency, let's just look at around that 500 quid mark. And it was a 3-year deal, so it's about 165 to 170 million quid every year shared between the Premier League clubs. I read a report somewhere to say that was about £9 million a season. So that's another 9 million quid that City would have expected to have earned, but they haven't got. So up to 24 million so far. Lost gate receipts. Some clubs are hit a lot more than City. Liverpool get, I think the last accounts were about £84 million match day income. City's is about £55 million. United is well over £100 million. Arsenal's, I think, is around 90 or a bit more, maybe near 100. So City in a season would get about 55 million quid. Now, if you're playing 29 or 30 games, let's say it's roughly 2 million quid a game. Now, we missed, I think, 5 home league games, 5 or 6, and then obviously the Champions League game, the game against Real Madrid, where I think we would get a little bit more because there's no season tickets, so to speak. Season tickets, with all the season card holders at City, you know, some of us are paying about 20 quid or even less a ticket. A value goal is 299 quid for 19 games. Other areas of the ground, it's a little bit more expensive. But let's say you're paying 20 quid a ticket. Now, when it comes to Champions League, someone like Real Madrid, I can't remember what we were paying, was it about 42 quid a ticket? So City can get more than the normal level. So I think they could have got maybe 3.5 million, 4 million quid, whatever, from that game. But let's say City missed out on 6 or 7 home games last season. It's cost us 12 or 13, maybe even 15 million quid. But let's use 12 million, let's be prudent. So that's got us up from 24, we're up to 36 million quid City missing out on. And if there's no games this season, City will miss out on about 55 to 60 million quid. Now, if there are games, it's going to be heavily, what's the right word? Not heavily discounted, but there's going to be a fewer fans. There's going to be, we talk about, 30% of fans in the grounds. Now, there's nothing in September, so there's no gate receipts in September, and it looks like it's going to be delayed for October as well. There's going to be no test or pilot games or test games in Greater Manchester because of the situation, the increased measures because of coronavirus or COVID-19. So we could potentially lose about 55 to 60 million quid. Let's use that 55 million quid. 55 plus 36, 91. It could be 100 million because we could lose 60 there. We could lose a little bit more on the gate receipts we didn't get last time. The rebate could be 60 million, whatever, instead of 15. But it could be between 90 and 100 million pounds Manchester City will not earn. And this is money that they budgeted for, that they forecast for, that they reasonably expected to receive. So who's going to make up the shortfall? Yeah, we run a club that over the last few seasons we make a very, very small profit. Now we actually make an operating loss, but we make a profit on player sales that gets us into a profit overall. So who's going to make up that shortfall? I think it's going to be Sheikh Mansour. Sheikh Mansour hasn't actually put a lot of money into City in the last few years, certainly not player transfers. The idea behind City now is we're a self-sustaining club. We bring in money from the 3 main sources, from TV money, from gate receipts, or match day income, and from commercial income. That's where we make our money, and we spend it on obviously things like player wages and everything else. And that's so what we bring in, we spend. That's basically the way it works. It's not as if it's back to the old days where Sheikh Mansour was pumping hundreds of millions of pounds in to help us buy players because we didn't have the income, and there was no FFP in the early days to stop to actually stop him doing that. We're a self-sustaining club. That's that. So if you miss out on 100 million pounds, how are you going to get the money back? You're expecting that. You can see, I believe, in most of the transfer market, that clubs are not spending masses of money. You'll see someone like, okay, Chelsea are an exception. They have a slightly different business model, but most clubs aren't spending huge amounts of money. Now, City so far has spent about 60 million quid. That's peanuts for City, really. I don't think there's been any huge transfer dealings apart from Chelsea. You see Barcelona struggling financially. They don't want to pay the right money for Eric Garcia. They don't want to pay the right money for Lautaro Martinez. They're trying to scrimp and save. They're trying to sell before they buy. Look at Real Madrid, trying to offload Gareth Bale and his wages and his amortization so that they can fulfill the requirements of FFP and get some cash flow in. There's lots of things, lots of pressure financially at the moment, and people need to realise that. So City are £100 million short, 90 to £100 million short in the space of 12 months. Who's going to pay that? How are we going to make that money back? One of the ways to do it is player sales. Now, it's been known for a few years now that City sometimes pay a little bit too much for players and sometimes sell them for a little bit under what they're worth. And fans criticise Txiki, Geristan, Director of Football, and the board for this. But how often do they, in the same breath, say, we paid 55 million for Kevin De Bruyne, but he's worth 100 and odd million. And if you wanted Kevin De Bruyne now, how much would you expect another club to pay? How much would you expect Real Madrid to pay for KDB? 120, 150, 180 million? Raheem Sterling, and we paid 45 million quid as a deal to Liverpool with a few add-ons, would have taken up to 49 million quid. How much is Raheem Sterling worth? If we sold him for less than 100 million quid, he'd be extremely displeased. So people seem to ignore the good deals that are done and focus on the bad deals. Now, there have been some terrible deals, but sometimes it's to do with purchases. People complain about Mangala, people complained about Boney. We made huge losses on them, they said. The thing is, they were bad buys. They were bad buys. We were lucky, to be honest, to get what we did for them. They were pretty awful buys. And people say we sold Dzeko too cheaply, we sold Tevez too cheaply. Yes, we have sold players a little bit on the cheap. Now, I think that's true, but there are also reasons behind it. You've got to look at some of the reasons behind it. Now, it's been a lot of the gripes because Otamendi is rumoured to be leaving for about 6 million quid, and Tosin Adarabioyo, City kid who's been here since he was 5. I think I read some rumours about 8 million quid, and people say these are peanuts and they should be going for a lot more. Otamendi's 32. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He should be worth more than 6 million quid. And at Tosin, people say if it was Liverpool selling somebody this old Jordan Ive for 20 million quid, for instance, and other clubs are selling their players extremely expensively, and we are getting peanuts for ours. And to some extent, I do agree. But you've got to look into why we sometimes sell players cheaply. And we did this with Colin the other week, but I feel I have to go through some of the information again. Now, I'll use Otamendi as an example. There's things to consider: wages, amortization, profit on the sale in the accounts, cash flow. Okay, these are all important things. Do we have an agreement with the player? Have we said something to him, for instance, to say, please stay an extra year? If you stay the extra year, we'll let you go on the cheap next summer. Have we said that? Have we done that with Dzeko? Did we do that with Tevez? Have we done that with Otamendi? We don't know. We don't know these contracts. We don't know these private agreements. But what we do know is City are pretty decent with the established stars, for instance. Look at someone like David Silva. I mean, he could decide when he left. There was always a 12-month extension on the table for him, contract extension. He decided when to leave. Aguero, we've said he can go when he chooses to leave. This sort of thing. So I think with some players we are really good. Maybe not so with the youngsters, but the established stars, I think generally, you can argue that we're pretty decent with them. So do we have agreements with them? Do we have agreements with players to say, as I said, please stay an extra season, we'll let you go on the cheap next season, or we'll let you go for free? Do we have that? Do we need to make space in the squad? We've got this issue, every team's got this issue, where you're allowed a maximum of 17 non-homegrown players in your squad. 17 non-homegrown players, okay? Now, we finished the season with 17. Now, we've lost Claudio Bravo, replaced him with Zach Steffen, both non-homegrown. We've lost David Silva and Leroy Sané, both non-homegrown. And we've got Nathan Ake in, who is actually counts as homegrown, even though he's not English, because he was at Chelsea for the required period of time. He was with an English club for the required period of time, which is basically 3 years or 36 months. So he was registered with them, so he actually counts as homegrown. And Ferran Torres, I think, still qualifies as an under 21. So we've got space in that squad, but also, do you need to create space to bring others in? Now, if we want to bring in Kalidou Koulibaly, we need to create some space to bring him in, and one of them is to let Otamendi go, maybe let him go on the cheap to let Kalidou Koulibaly in, or whoever we get, whether it's Upamecano or somebody else if they're non-homegrown. If we are going to get someone like Ismail Benassa, Houssem Aouar, Lautaro Martinez, all non-homegrown, we need to have space in the squad. So I think we've got 15 players already. I think we've still got 2 spaces in the squad for non-homegrown players, but hey, the window's not closing for 3 weeks. We want to keep our options open. So let's briefly look at Nicolas Otamendi. Now, going through his numbers, Nicolas Otamendi cost us about £32 million. That's what the rumour price was back in 2015. Now, he was on a 5-year contract. Now, in the books, in our profit and loss account, which is what matters here, we write his value off that £32 million that we paid over 5 years. That's the length of his contract. So actually works out about £6.4 million every season, every year in the accounts. After 3 years, he got a contract extension till 2022. Okay, so that was instead of finishing at 2020, he had a 2-year extension to 2022. So in effect, that was like a 4-year contract. So what we would do is look at his value in the accounts, in the balance sheet now, but look at his value, okay, and see what his notional, it is notional because it's not physical, we call it net book value, is. So as I said, we write him down at £6.4 million every year. 3 years, that's 19.2 million amortized. Okay, depreciation, amortization. You can take your pick, but it's in the accounts it's called amortization. So after 3 years, he's now worth 32 million, which is what we cost, less what we've amortized, which is 19.2 million. He's now worth in the books 12.8 million pounds. Now, if we were to sell him, he's worth a lot more. That's his market value, but we're, for accounting purposes, looking at his net book value. He's 12.8 million. He's got a 4-year contract, so to amortize him over the remaining years of his contract, it's 12.8 divided by 4, which is 3.2 million pounds amortization every season. Okay, he's on about 140,000 quid a week, let's say. I think it's 140,000 euros actually, which is about 7 million pounds. Okay, so what's important here? He's got 2 years left in his contract. Okay, now if we try and get too much money for him, we might not sell him and he might stay. Okay, this is an issue you've got to consider. But if we manage to get him off the books and get all his wages off our books, getting his wages off our books is worth about 7 million quid to us a season. His amortization, remember I said it's 3.2 million a season, that's off the books as well. So in our profit and loss accounts, we are better off by the wages that we're saving and the amortization that we're saving. That's just over 10 million pounds. That makes the difference, 10 million pounds, and that's over 2 seasons. 10 million the first season, 10 million the second season. That's 20 million. Okay, that's how it affects our profit loss account. Now, when we look at can we make a profit on the sale in our books? Well, we're selling him for 6 million. His net book value actually is about 6 million, just over 6 million, because remember, when he had that contract extension, I said he's worth 12.8 million in the books. Over 4 years, 2 years have expired, so his value has dropped by half, so that's 6.4. So if he's worth 6.4 in the books, we sell him for 6 million, let's call it break even, it's less than £500,000 quid. So we don't make a profit in the cash, but on other players we will. Someone like Torsten Adarabioyo, okay? He's basically cost us nothing. If we sell him for 8 million, in our books he's valued at nothing, almost. We sell him for 8 million, our profit in the accounts is 8 million. That's going to help our books. Yeah, and we save his wages, which I think are £1.25 to £1.5 million a year. So it makes a huge difference. And all this saving on wages, amortization, profit in the accounts on sales helps us and enables us to spend on other players and help our profit and loss account to look a little bit better. That's what we've been doing in the last few years. That's made the difference. Player sales actually turns what is an operating loss into a small profit. And obviously there's the cash flow issue as well. If we sell Ottomany for 6 million, that's 6 million quid cash that we get. It might be over a couple of seasons that the money's paid, but we can actually sell that debt. We can factor it, like lots of companies do. Instead of waiting 3 months for someone to pay, or in this case a year, you sell it to a bank or another organisation who might pay you 95% of the money. So for instance, if we sell Torsten Adarabioyo to somebody for 8 million, they might pay us 4 million up front and then pay 4 million next season. And we can sell that debt on and get, let's say, 95% of the money now. Okay, the extra 5% is the financing companies, that's their commission, their profit, whatever. So all these little things add up to make a difference in your profit and loss account, and that allows you to go out and spend. Obviously you've got the money coming in terms of hard cash, but you've created the space or the savings. Yeah. So Ottomany's wages, if you end up saving his wages of 140,000 euros a week, that will pay for someone like Ferran Torres' wages. David Silva leaving, let's say he was on £200,000 a week. I suspect that will cover most of Kalidou Koulibaly's and Ferran Torres' wages. So if you look at the players who've gone, Claudio Bravo, David Silva, Leroy Sané, don't know exactly what everybody was on, but I would suspect we're in the region of £400,000 a week saved. And I would suspect £400,000 a week pays for Kalidou Koulibaly's wages, pays for Ferran Torres' wages, pays for Nathan Aké's wages. I'd hazard a guess that that's pretty much, and it evens itself out. So all these things are important. So guys, take the opportunity to try and understand a little bit about the finances behind what's going on at clubs. It applies as much to City as to Liverpool, as to Chelsea. It applies for everybody. It's the same, similar sort of finances going on everywhere. As I said, Chelsea have a slightly different model, but everybody else has to generally live within their means. They've got to face FFP, and they've got to make sure they pass it. Otherwise, you could end up with fines or being banned from European competition. But it doesn't take too much. You watch a video like this, 20 odd minutes, I don't think that's too much. And there are other videos out there, other articles out there, simply explaining how finances work. Take the time to do that research and come across as knowledgeable. There's far too many people out there on social media who think they know, but they don't know, and they're quite happy to slate you and slag you off. It doesn't matter that you're an accountant, or a qualified accountant for 25 years now. It makes no difference to the experts on Twitter and Facebook. But guys, take the time, go and look at the other videos that Colin's done. He might explain it in a slightly different way to me. It might be an easier way for you to understand. But go and search out this information and be better prepared, be better armed when you're actually making comments about City or other clubs. And don't forget, as I said, there's more than one reason why we're selling a player at a certain price. As I said, don't forget this. If we've agreed with somebody, what if we've agreed with Nicholas Otamendi? Now, maybe he wanted to go last summer. We said, look, we're losing Vinny. Please stay one more season. Please stay one more season, and we'll let you go at a cheaper price. Please stay, Nico. We can't afford to lose Vincent and you in the same summer. Please stay one more season, and we'll let you go at, let's say, 6 million quid. Yeah, instead of 10 million quid, which makes it harder for somebody else to buy you. It gives him more options where to go. Maybe we've done that. Who knows? Maybe we did the same with Tosin. I don't know. We don't know. No one knows. And they're not going to tell us exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So guys, please take the time to watch other videos that Colin's done, and look at podcasts that Kieran Maguire does and stuff he's done on this channel as well. We did a series of 4 videos last year about football finances, trying to explain in simple terms how things work. So I hope you find this useful. Let me know in the comments section below if you want to know more about football finances. Quite happy to do more videos about little nuances and little bits and pieces about football finance with you. I certainly know Colin is really happy to do these videos as well. So let us know in the comment section below what you guys want to see in future videos. See you around, please.